What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Gamescript. We're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Denver Broncos in this one. We got Denver as 7-point favorites against a team loaded with weapons, but should they be? And the Denver Broncos have been struggling lately. Maybe we see something that Vegas isn't expecting on Monday night, and we'll get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. Going to be looking at the Denver Broncos versus the Cincinnati Bengals in this one, 7-point spread in this one in favor of Denver. And we have a situation with Cincinnati where Joe Burrow is out for the season, and we got Jake Browning subbing in for him. But we've seen Jake Browning in the past, and he's been able to kickstart this offense in the past before. Will he be able to do it again here versus Denver? Denver has been not doing the greatest this season. They're 1-2. Sean Payton teams often get off to a slow start, and that could impact how this game plays out. If you remember, a couple of years ago, they lost by like the other team put up 70 points on Denver in one of Sean Payton's first seasons early in the season and around like September. So, like Denver is not invincible, and a 7-point spread against the Cincinnati team that needs a win desperately. I would not be surprised to see the Bengals pull something off here, and we can build some lineups in that direction to get us a little bit different from the field. Before we do that, make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 50 likes to put out my favorite picks in the comment section as we get closer to lock. And also make sure to sign up for the YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube page. You're going to want to subscribe to the page to get access to all these videos and the alerts for when these videos start to hit the YouTube page. And you're going to want to get access to the free preview that I'm going to unveil in a couple weeks of my website. That is going to be a massive research tool for you. You're going to want access to this. It's going to help you out big time with making your life so much easier in the aspect of looking for nuggets. So keep an eye out for that. You got to be subbed to the YouTube page to get free access to that beta preview when it comes out. It's going to be limited time free beta preview, but I'm going to give that access to my YouTube subscribers. So, and help me get to 2,000 YouTube subscribers, only about 100 off of that. So I appreciate the help there. Now, before we get into it, just want to go over a recent hit that I had over on Underdog. I believe it was the week 3 main slate is what this was from. I had a situation where Underdog gave us a pick'em, a gimme for the pick'em contest. That was Russell Wilson higher than 0 passing rushing yards. He didn't get too much higher over that, but we got there with that gimme pick. I had Jake Browning under on 236 passing yards. He only got 140 in that game. Hawkinson, I had it going higher than 5.5 targets. He ended up making me sweat that one out and caught a touchdown at the very last minute of that game to get him over 5.5 targets. And then Brandon Aubrey and Luther Burden both hit on their props very early on in their games. Aubrey had 2 field goals in the first quarter, I believe, and Luther Burden caught that quick touchdown pass from Michael Penix to put us at a 87 X return on this pick'em. So ended up being like a pretty good win for the beginning of the season. I put out a video on my YouTube page prior to this contest. So my viewers who tailed on this, congratulations. We got a very nice win on one of these pick'ems early in the season. All right, so let's move back on to DraftKings. You can sign up for an underdog account using the promo code SEEK. That's SEEK. They're going to give you a free $100 now. I have 50 on my graphic, but it's now $100. When you play $5, they're going to give you $100 in bonus funds. So go over there, sign up for an account, use the promo code SEEK, and you're going to get a $100 bonus when you play your first $5 over there on Underdog. They're going to give you $100 in bonus funds. So let's go over to DraftKings. Now we got Jamar Chase is likely going to be seeing a lot of Patrick Surtain this week. So that's going to put Jamar Chase in a tricky situation. He's also the most expensive guy on the slate. But, we've seen it with Chase in the past. Chase is capable of beating, like a matchup like this, mainly if Joe Burrow is throwing to him. But we're not going to have Joe Burrow throwing to him this week. But wideouts have been targeted at a 74% clip against Denver. And Chase is only running about 34% of his routes from the slot. So that's going to be a potentially good situation for us to take Chase, especially if we notice that his ownership's low. But he is likely to be, pretty highly owned in this game, regardless of what his matchup looks like. Bo Nix has, come out slow out of the gates. He had one good game in week 2, but he's had a 9.8 and a 13.4 performance against these Bengals. The Bengals have been primarily hit by running backs because let's see what the scores have been with these Bengals so far. Bengals, we're looking at scores of 17-16, 31-27, and 48-10. So, running games have been the primary way to attack the Bengals so far this season, which is why we haven't really seen too much from quarterbacks against them. We've only been seeing quarterbacks score 17.6 DraftKings points against the Bengals, despite the situation where the Bengals have been extremely not the best defense. They haven't been as bad this season as they have in the past, like last season in particular, but they've been getting demolished by opposing running attacks. So keep that in mind with the Bengals. All right, so let's move on to Jake Browning. Jake Browning is subbing in for Joe Burrow. Sorry, my dog is barking. And Jake Browning had 7.9 DraftKings points last week, and then he had 20.7 in week 2. Now, when Burrow went out a couple seasons ago and Jake Browning filled in for the majority of the season, we did see more of these types of performances, the 20.7 DraftKings points. So, don't be surprised if we see Jake Browning have a decent game this week. Although the Broncos have been tough against quarterbacks, have only been giving up 13.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So, it's going to be a contrarian take to go with Browning this week against this Broncos defense. But he's expensive on top of it. He's at $15K for the captain spot. Let's go to the flex. He's at $10K for the flex. Chase Brown has been doing terrible this year. He had 10 attempts for 3 yards last week. That's basically a foot per rush attempt. And just been struggling in general. 6 DraftKings points, 8.5 DraftKings points, and 13 DraftKings points. So not a great season for Chase Brown. And, 7-point dog in this one. He's been getting 5 targets, 3 targets, and 3 targets. So, maybe there's some hope that he'll give us some points in the passing game if they end up living up to their projected game script this week. Courtland Sutton, he's been doing pretty good. He had 18 DraftKings points and 26.8 last week. I do like Courtland Sutton in this matchup. The Bengals have been giving up 20 DraftKings points a game, or 22 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. So that's going to be setting up nicely for Courtland Sutton in this matchup. And like I said, we could build a script where the Bengals actually perform well in this game and keep it competitive. So we're not married to the idea of what Vegas is telling us with the 7-point spread. All right, JK Dobbins, he's been the lead horse in this backfield, 15 points a game, basically 15 DraftKings points a game. He's been getting the majority of the workload. He's been getting it over RJ Harvey, who was the rookie that everybody was projecting to come in here and own this backfield. But then JK Dobbins got signed at the last minute and ended up taking over the lead role in this. We know Sean Payton likes to lean on his vets, and that puts RJ Harvey in a rough scene where he's not getting much usage. T. Higgins has the best matchup on this slate. He's going to be able to face off against the weaker corner on Denver. But on top of that, he gets so far this season, he's been getting a lot more targets in man coverage. And Denver's running man coverage at a top 10 rate. But, T. Higgins on top of that, he's double Jamar Chase's man coverage rate so far this season. And he's also going to have that weaker corner. So, expect some good things out of T. Higgins this week. I would not be surprised if he ends up being our captain. Troy Franklin has had a couple good weeks. He had 24, actually just one. He had 24 DraftKings points in week 2. But he's been basically their number 2 receiver so far this season. And if this game ends up being a higher scoring game, then Troy Franklin could be interesting for us this week. And he's still relatively under the radar, I'd say. He's expensive, though, at $6,600. Both these kickers are going to be in play. The Broncos defense will be in play. RJ Harvey, talked about him. Evan Ingram has probably the second best matchup on the slate, but unfortunately they are not throwing to their tight ends. But since he's been giving up 16 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, so that's going to put Evan Ingram in play. He is sharing tight end duties with Adam Troutman. And there's one more guy, Crow. So either one of those guys can also be a potential option for us, knowing Cincinnati's weak spot is against the tight end. Evan Ingram, though, I would not be surprised to see him have a decent game, and he's only at 4,400. He's looking to break out, and he was out last week with an injury, but prior to that, only 5.1 and 2.2 DraftKings points so far this season. Bengals D, they might be in play this week. They haven't been. Well, they had negative 1 point against Minnesota. They lost 48-10 last week. Prior to that, they won their first couple games, but then Joe Burrow went out in week 2, and they lost their first game with Browning as a starter. But Browning, like I said, he came in week 2 and had a decent performance when he immediately came in for Joe Burrow in week 2. Marvin Mims, another guy that could take advantage if we have a script where it's a little bit more competitive. Mims could go off at any point. Let's go and take a look at the snap counts here for these receivers. I'm going to share this tab instead. All right. Looking over at Denver, Mims had a 44% snap count. Franklin had 79. Sherfield had 42. And Sutton had 81. So we keep that in mind with these guys. Pat Bryant's the rookie. He had a really good offseason. I was thinking that Pat Bryant would get a decent amount of usage, but he's in the same boat, rookie boat that we see with RJ Harvey. So they have not been using Pat Bryant much either. But we can keep him in our player pool. Yosevich has a bad matchup too. Going over the Yosevich situation, the Bengals, the Broncos have only been giving up, let's see, 9.3 DraftKings points a game to the slot, only 26% target rate there versus 74 out wide. So Yosevich, may not have a great game this week. Fant, if he plays, could be interesting for us with Denver. Denver's only given up 10.3 DraftKings points a game, so not a great matchup. Fant splitting snaps with Gesicki and Sample, so there's a three-headed monster there for that tight end work. P. Ryan has not been used all that much. Had 4 rush attempts last week. At some point, if Chase Brown is not delivering, they're going to have to try to spice things up in that backfield. So P. Ryan could be in line for a little bit more usage. Troutman, another guy in that Denver tight end squad. Scrolling down, Brooks is the rookie. Taj Brooks had a lot of hype. You see, he got 5 attempts last week already against Minnesota. They were getting blown out, so that might have been why they decided to give him some work. In the cheap seats, I like Pat Bryant, Luke Kroll, another guy, Denver tight end. Keep an eye to see if he's even going to be active. They got so many tight ends, they're going to make probably 1 or 2 of them inactive. Deuce Vaughn is on the Broncos now. That's interesting. Batty is the third man in that running back set for Denver that's been getting usage. And that's about it that I see for potential guys. Jermaine Burton, healthy scratch. He had some potential. He was being hyped up last year, and then the guy was just a disaster. Keep an eye on Tanner Hudson on Cincinnati. If Fant is out with a concussion, then Tanner Hudson could be interesting at $200. So he's our deep dive into the cheap seats. But Tanner Hudson has done well in the past with at least with Joe Burrow. In fact, let's get a look at Tanner Hudson's box scores. I want to see what he's done. Going to go over to Pro Football Reference. Let's go to Tanner Hudson. Going to go to career game logs. All right. So when he was getting usage last year, he got a little bit. They signed Gesicki last year, and that kind of put Tanner Hudson on the back burner. But he did have some weeks where he got like 4 targets, 2 targets, 6 targets, and a touchdown. 14 yards, 2 targets. Now, the prior year is the year that we're interested in, because this is when he was playing with Jake Browning. So that's the year that we want to focus on here. So let's look at what his stuff looked like in that year. 4 targets, 2 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, a ton of targets. I think he's been a healthy scratch so far this season. Now, Tanner Hudson, like I said, he's only interesting if Fant is out, but he's got a history with with Jake Browning of getting a ton of targets. So keep that in mind. He's at $200. He could be interesting for us. All right, so let's get into this build. I want to do, what is likely to be a more common build first. Bo Nix is probably going to be the captain in that situation. I think he's probably going to be the most popular guy. Let's give him Sutton. And let's give him Dobbins. And I don't need two receivers with Bo Nix and the captain. I'm going to get Higgins in there too. This is with 3,900 per guy. We could get that Broncos D in there. They're 5,200 though. That's a little expensive, a little more expensive than I'd like to go. Let's get their tight end in there. That'll be our second receiver for Nix. Leaves us with 3,500. We could get guys like Gesicki in there, especially if Fant's out. Josephus might play a bigger role if there's no Fant. And then you got P. Ryan if things get out of hand and they need to throw it a little bit more. So there's an interesting route that we can go with Bo Nix. If we want to play with Higgins in the captain, I think he's got the best matchup. Let's put Higgins in that captain. Let's get Jake Browning in there with him. Let's put Bo Nix with his floor. Let's get Sutton in there too. Sutton is like he's usually pretty consistent with getting like at least double-digit fantasy points. So he's got a pretty safe floor in general. Dobbins, I want to get Dobbins in. Let's take out Sutton. Let's get Dobbins in because I want exposure to that run game. It leaves me with 4K per guy left. This could be another situation where I use Ingram. If I do that, I'm left with 3,600. Oh, that puts me in Mims territory, which is great. Mims territory gets me another receiver for Browning or for Nix. And then we got Browning to Higgins. If we wanted to work Chase into this build, puts us at 3,200 left. I want to get that. I want to get Mims in this. He's too cheap at 3,600. That's going to give us 4K. I think if we do see Cincy do well in this one, their defense is going to have to step up. So I don't mind putting the Bengals D in this one. Or we could put like Gesicki in there, get a second receiver for. We already got Chase and Higgins in this one. I would probably lean more towards the Bengals defense or Gesicki in this example. So, there's a couple options for building lineups for this slate. Make sure to hit the like button. Give me the 50 likes so I can put out my shorter video later on. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Get access to that secret weapon that's right around the corner. Looking for 2,000 subscribers. I'm at 1,900 right now. So I definitely appreciate the help in getting there. Have fun with this build, guys. Don't assume that the Bengals are just going to lie down in this one. And Denver, remember, they struggle in September under Sean Payton. Let's try to build a little bit differently on this one. And good luck, guys.